Hello, I am Tanner Scott, and this is Superhumanity. This is the show where we'll talk about life through the lens of comic books. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey guys, so before we get into today's episode, I want to give a little overview of All-Star Superman. That's the book we're going to be talking about. Richard and I have both read it, but I want to read the part of the Wikipedia synopsis of the book so everyone else can have a better understanding if you haven't read it at all. All-Star Superman is a 12-issue American comic book series featuring Superman that was published by DC Comics. The series ran from November 2005 to October 2008, written by Grant Morrison, drawn by Frank Quitely, and digitally inked by Jamie Grant. The series revolves around Superman as he accomplishes many heroic feats, the 12 labors of Superman, and attempts to make peace with the world before his imminent death due to overexposure to the Earth's sun. All-Star Superman received critical acclaim for its emotional story, characterization, writing, and artwork. It is now widely seen as one of the greatest Superman stories ever written and one of the best comic books of all time. An animated adaptation was released in 2011, and the 2025 film Superman takes inspiration from the comic book series. That should be enough for you guys to understand what's mostly going on in the episode, and honestly, if you want to get to know the book, the best way to do it is to read it. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Here is Richard on All-Star Superman. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Superhumanity. I'm Tanner Scott. I'm here with my older brother, Richard Scott, as a special guest. Say hello,
Richard. I'm here.
Today, we're going to be going over All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. That's the illustrator. I think that's how you say his name.
Yes. Frankly, he's quiet.
So, we want to go over, we want to introduce All-Star Superman because it's a pretty important book in comic book reader circles. But interestingly, you were the one who actually introduced me to the book.
Really?
Yeah.
I do not remember that. That's
okay.
Awesome.
Because I was going to ask. I was going to ask, how did you first hear about All-Star Superman?
That's a great question. So my first exposure to All-Star Superman actually wasn't even with the comic book. It was with the DCU animated movie.
Oh.
Which randomly popped up on Netflix one day, and I thought, I like superheroes. This will be cool. And then little did I know what I was in for. And then I remember being so confused at the end when I was like, wait, Superman just dies? Like, this is the end of the movie? This sucks. But yeah, that's how I first got introduced to it. And then I read the comic book later. And so I'm sure I probably introduced it to you somewhere along that spectrum. But
that is fascinating. I knew there was a movie, but I've not seen it.
Yeah. As far as I can remember, the movie is very true to the comic book. Like, I remember the key scenes where he's holding up the thing on the moon where it's like 18 trillion tons or whatever, and he says, like, I feel like I can do more. I remember being like, dang. And then
it's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of key moments that I think translate over perfectly.
It is interesting how there's a lot of iconic moments in this book that I actually want to get to one of them later, but how many times do you think you've read All-Star Superman?
Cover to cover, probably just 2 times, actually. Probably the first time I ever read it, and then gave that information to you when I told you about it. And then I think the second time I read it was like within the past year after you got the book.
Yeah.
And I saw it on your book stand or something, and I thought, I should reread that.
Yeah. If you remember, how well do you think you understood what was going on in the book first time compared to the second time?
Both times I understood not much.
Okay, that's good because I've read the book probably 7 times, and every time there's something new that just like, oh, it does actually make sense. It's just like kind of unclear.
Yeah.
I've heard that Grant Morrison, they like to skip panels and be wonky with their storytelling.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff they write can be super disjointed. You, of course, have read Arkham Asylum.
Yes. Love Arkham Asylum. It's a great book.
Similarly disjointed.
Yes. But for some reason, comparing Arkham Asylum, which now that we're comparing multiple comic books, this is going to be really tough for the people who haven't read either of them, but you guys should just go read all the comic books. Especially if you're only going to read 2. The ones by Grant Morrison are probably good choices.
I agree.
But at least when I felt I felt like when I was reading Arkham Asylum, there was an element of Grant Morrison does this thing, at least in these two books, where it feels pretty episodic, which I guess the comic book medium lends itself to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt that extremely so, to the point where it was, like you said, I think you used the word disjointed, where I felt like I was getting thrown around into mini storylines, and like I could tell you the broad plot of All-Star Superman off the top of my head, but if I had to tell you what happens in each chapter, I would not be able to tell you. There's so much that happens in each one, and it's like its own microcosm.
It really is. Also, I think Arkham Asylum, it's a lot easier to digest it because it's about insane people.
Yeah.
And Superman is not about insane people.
So because wait.
Arkham Asylum doesn't make sense a lot of times, and that's perfectly okay. Because
the reader doesn't expect it to make sense.
Exactly. You're in the asylum the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
Super crazy. But All-Star Superman, there's this book called Going After Cacciato. I know you've read it.
Yes, I've read
Fantastic book.
Yeah.
I tried to read it before I was in that AP literature class.
Yeah.
No one was helping me out. I did not understand.
That must have been really tough.
Exactly. I was like 3 chapters in. I was like, Going After Cacciato makes no sense. Everyone's tripping because this book is dumb.
Yeah.
But then once I had someone explain to me the format of the book, it's like, oh, by the way, some of this is a dream, some of it's real. Just that little bit of information made the book so good.
Yeah.
I think All-Star Superman is the exact same. The more I research online, like, what's actually going on here? I think reading it with a guide makes it more fun.
Which is interesting, because I think it's really easy to dismiss comic books as less than literature, and I know you have strong feelings on this, so I'd be interested to hear your take. But when you compare Going After Cacciato, which was it's like this esteemed book, this esteemed literary accomplishment, probably won like 7 awards. I don't remember.
Probably.
You guys can fact check that. But then you compare All-Star Superman, it's like when there's those multiple layers that you have to peel back and read multiple times and look into and find meaning beyond just like there's like extra textual meaning almost, where you have to like really engage with it and do some work to uncover meaning. I think that kind of lends itself to the idea that comic books can be literature and should be compared like on equal footing, I guess.
I obviously love that take. And according to Grant Morrison, so Grant Morrison has this book called Super Gods, where they claim, I haven't read the book, so I'm not going to talk about the book, but the thesis is that superheroes have replaced myths, Greek gods kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's why you can have infinite stories about Batman. He doesn't have to age. He doesn't have to really progress because he's kind of a static thing. Mm-hmm. But through him, we can learn about ourselves. Like the whole mirror thing that Shakespeare talks about. So it's like, on All-Star Superman, they really lean into that. Grant Morrison has said All-Star Superman is supposed to be a solar deity myth. So there's
wow, that's big language.
Yeah. So there's 12 episodes, 12 issues, mm-hmm. and 6 and 7, he's in the underverse. He's in the dark, bizarro world. But there's no yellow sun and everything's bad and he needs to get back to the universe. So the story does take the form of a day. Instead of being just a simple hero's journey, it's you start midday, go to midnight, end at noon again. And you can actually really clearly see that with the first and last panels of the book, the big pages. Like, obviously there's that cool one where Superman is fixing the sun, which I actually have crazy points about. And then the first time you see Superman in the book, the very beginning, he's right in front of the sun. So they both end with very intimate Superman and sun moments. It's like perfect bookends. And then in the middle, he's in the Bizarro verse, which doesn't make sense. It's kind of not supposed to. It's just like, everything's backwards.
Doesn't make sense because the
format makes sense, but everything that goes down in the Bizarro world is kind of wild.
Yes.
That's especially disjointed.
Yeah, I remember reading that and being thoroughly confused. Not only based on, I wasn't just confused about what was happening in the book. I was confused about why the creators would even put this in the book.
Exactly.
Like, what are they hoping to accomplish with this? Trying to do, like, I guess some of that literary analysis just right off the bat, and struggling and failing miserably to understand what's going on.
It is definitely confusing. The important thing to remember is that's the darkest part of the night.
Mm-hmm.
It's midnight in the day of the solar god story. And something super important that is not written anywhere, but All-Star Superman takes completely rewrites Bizarro's mythos. It makes a new origin story for Bizarro. It makes a new like lore. So obviously there's the guy on the moon, Dr. Quintum, who's not in anything except for this book. And he has like a bunch of Bizarro workers for him. But then there's also like the Bizarro world that is in the Underverse. There's like beneath our universe.
Mm-hmm.
And Bizarro world, the cube Earth thing wanted to eat our world. And so it did that by copying a bunch of people. And one of the people was Superman. So that's where we get like the Bizarro from.
Mm.
And so when you're on the Bizarro world, there's a bunch of copies of the rest of the Justice League too. But it's pretty confusing.
Yep. See, if even you explain that to me right now, I'm like, wow, that's still very confusing.
Yeah. But I want to get to one of the strengths that I just recently realized about All-Star Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because people say it's called this definitive take on Superman. It's like I've heard people online say it's Superman in a nutshell. And despite all of its disjointedness, there is something to it in the way that like you actually don't have to really read anything to be prepared for this. Like I talked to you yesterday about New 52 Batman. If you just read the Batman entries, 0 sense. You have to read a lot of context.
Mm-hmm.
There is none of that for All-Star Superman. And everybody in the book is a Superman character. Batman gets mentioned one time. And you see the Justice League in the Bizarro world, their copies. But other than that, it's very much the Daily Planet. Clark Kent, a lot of Fortress of Solitude. It introduces the Superman robots, but again, that's a Superman thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a Justice League book. It's not a DC Universe book. It's really a Superman book. It's very firmly locked in. Lex Luthor is a constant presence in the whole book, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a strength. It's not an origin story. It's actually the opposite of the origin story.
Yeah, it's like
it's how he ends.
a conclusion story.
But it's purely Superman, which I think is a strength.
So, I guess from your perspective, is that like the largest thing that contributes to people saying that this is the definitive Superman, or is there more to it than that? Because if I'm thinking off the top of my head, I'm thinking like, well, there's lots of Superman stories. Like Superman Birthright just has Superman characters. So what? And personally, I think I like Superman Birthright better than All-Star Superman.
I think you do.
From a story that engages me in like a classic comic book. Wow, this is so exciting kind of sense.
Birthright is fantastic, first of all.
Yeah.
And I think it's written like a movie, and I think it really serves it well.
You know, that's very fair.
But here's what I will say. All-Star Superman, the first 5 episodes, you get an episode about Superman when he realizes he's dying, 2 about Lois Lane, 1 about Jimmy Olsen, and then a Lex Luthor chapter that are completely devoted to those characters. So that on its own is a fantastic introduction to the characters, except for the fact that it's like this weird version of Jimmy, but whatever, man. They totally butchered Jimmy, but it's okay. And you see a lot of, I mean, there's even that chapter when he goes back in time so he can talk to his dad one more time before he dies. And that's really cool. So you have a little bit of Smallville, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, Superman, a lot of Kandor, the Bottle City, a lot of Fortress of Solitude. And so I think in that way, it is Superman in a nutshell. And I was going to say there's no evil Superman, but actually in the Jimmy Olsen chapter, he does get infected by black kryptonite, and Loki turned evil for a little bit.
That's true.
But you know, in that way, it is also Superman in a nutshell.
Yeah, because that always happens. Always seems to happen every time.
The 2010s were plagued by evil Supermen.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, it's like Injustice, The Boys with Homelander, Invincible with Omni-Man. I don't know if you know these guys, but they're just Superman but evil. That's all it is. So,
bingo. They even came out with a horror movie that was based off of a
Brightburn?
That might be it.
That was by James Gunn.
There you go.
He and his brothers did that. I'm like 90% sure.
Wow.
75% sure? You guys have to
You guys can fact check.
But yeah, like that was a huge thing in the 2010s.
Yeah.
And I think James Gunn's new Superman movie is a reconstruction that we so desperately needed.
Yeah.
It's like Superman is a good guy. He's the
Yeah.
good guy. You know? I don't know. That's a pretty common sentiment online.
Yeah.
A lot of the people were really tired of evil Superman.
Yeah.
And it's okay when it's a different character. But
Mhm.
when it's actually Clark Kent, like he's a good guy.
Yeah. It seems to be like it's coming from like this place of cynicism
Exactly.
and like, oh, tear down your gods, nobody can be truly good. So that's probably why, like you said, like the new James Gunn's new Superman feels so refreshing. I remember I read a review somewhere, I can't remember what it says, but it's like they said that James Gunn's Superman was like, oh, what is the word they used? They said something to the effect of like, he's like so good or moral or earnest in a way that almost like it's like daring, like it's like challenging people's preconceived notions of it's punk rock. There you go. So I think that's spot on. Do you feel like James Gunn's Superman draws on Grant Morrison's Superman All-Star?
1,000,000%. James Gunn, first of all, says it does.
There you go.
After the first Superman trailer dropped, this was so cool. I wish everyone would do this. The end of the trailer said, hey, by the way, check these books out. Superman #1, back in the olden days. And then the other 2 books were Superman for All Seasons and All-Star Superman.
Wow.
Both of which I had on my bookshelf at the time. And oh, that was such a great moment. The end of that trailer, I was like, I've read those.
Yeah.
It was cool. The James Gunn's DCU is being so brilliant about the way it's adapting source material.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the new Supergirl movie coming out this year, it's just a single book right to a movie. Harry Potter style kind of thing.
Yeah, wow.
So great. It's going to be so good. And the author of the book is on the DCU writing team, Tom King, my goat. Love that guy.
Wow.
Love Tom King. So like that kind of vibe is actually this is going to be a tangent, but I think it's an important tangent. In the 2010s, Marvel and DC both varied wildly from their source material. That's why Marvel was so good and that's why DC was so bad.
Wow, interesting.
In terms of the movies. Because I've been trying to read some Marvel and it's not that good.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like one-off stories that are self-contained and awesome, Marvel is pretty lacking in that.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read Civil War, to be fair. But DC, I mean, come on, bro. DC is great at that.
Is packed.
That's where they excel.
Yeah.
Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, Long Halloween, Batman, Superman for All Seasons. Those are incredible stories.
Yeah.
Those are so good. And now that someone who actually likes DC is in charge of DC, which is James Gunn we trust, he's actually like, oh, by the way, we have good literature to go off of.
Yeah.
Because what you were saying about the critique, the criticism, that was Zack Snyder's whole vibe.
Yeah.
He was in this panel, he went in front of this audience, and he was like, something about how your heroes are all corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, Superman is
like anti that message.
Yeah,
like
Zack Snyder is a Superman villain. Like 1,000,000%.
Yeah, wow.
Put him on a page, he's a Superman villain.
Yeah.
Like he is the antithesis of the Man of Steel. Crazy. Okay, now I want to touch on some of the messages I've been noticing in All-Star Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is pretty interesting. Superman gets his powers from the sun. He's a Kryptonian. So like his cells absorb yellow sunlight. It makes him super strong and stuff. And so I, at first, was tackling the question, okay, what does it mean that in the very first scene of the book, he gets poisoned by the sun, too much sun. In the whole book, he's dying because of that. Like, what does it mean that the source of his power is killing him? And my first thought was, okay, let's reverse that. Maybe the source of his death is actually giving him strength. You know, I just like flipped it upside down.
Yeah, wow.
Which I do think is true. And it's something that really can apply to humans, like normal people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, that's a really cool literary message that I could bring, I don't know, that I could apply to my own life.
Yeah.
But one of the things that makes Superman the Man of Tomorrow is how he is like, Grant Morrison describes him as perfect in mind, body, and intention. and I really like how Superman lifts people up.
Mm-hmm.
In the show, My Adventures with Superman, great example of that. All the villains become good guys at the end because Superman is like so nice.
Oh wow.
But it's or that'll help him out against Brainiac. But
Yeah.
Superman inspires other people to be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized his relationship with the sun, the way it actually ends up is very Superman-like. But instead of Superman helping somebody else out, Superman is the one being helped out. He dedicates his death to fixing the sun that was always the source of his power. Because Lex Luthor teamed up with this evil sun robot and poisoned the sun, which is really unclear. There's one tiny speech bubble that says that in like the 11th chapter, I know. But yeah, so thinking about it that way, I actually think it's like, well, of course Superman would do that. That's his whole thing. That's what he does. Like the way he affects other people is the way the sun affects him, which really means that Superman is our sort. Like what Superman represents is our source of strength. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great take. Sounds like you've thought about this a lot.
All-Star is really easy to think about.
Maybe you should make a podcast about this. Yeah, I think the first thing that makes me think of is something that I both see playing out in All-Star Superman and that I think is just inherent in the human experience, that we are all gifted like this human life, this human experience, but the very thing that through which we experience it, like time, is also finite, and as time passes we come closer and closer to our inevitable deaths, which I think is something that obviously religion grapples with that a lot. Superman himself has to grapple with this, and you see the same effect that time has on regular humans. It has, once Superman realizes his own mortality, he kind of starts making decisions differently. Like, once he realizes he's going to die, he realizes, wait, I want Lois Lane to know who I am. I want her to know everything about me. I want to share myself with her. And I'm sure there are other examples throughout the book, but like, in the same way, we as humans, when we confront our mortality, there's, I guess, like you said, there's two ways to look at it. We can look at it as like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to die. That's going to be like the end of my life. That's going to be the end of everything. So that's terrifying. Or if you look at it from like this Superman perspective, I guess it's like how empowering to know that your days are numbered. So what you do right now really matters. And you have the power to control right now. And that does really matter because it won't always be that way. That's what your analysis made me thought of, which is kind of big and existential, but it's a very big and existential book.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's when I first wanted to start a podcast, it was exactly for that. There's a lot of depth in comic books that is completely untapped.
Yeah.
Just completely. And there's also a lot of comic books that aren't that deep. So I get it.
That is so true.
So I get it. I 100% get it.
Yeah.
But there are good books.
Yeah.
Maybe not proportionally as many well, actually that's not true because there's a lot of lame novels
There's a lot of terrible writing out there.
Exactly. So it's just fair.
If law school has taught me anything, it's that 90% of people can't write.
Yeah, there's good stuff. There's stuff you can actually think about.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to get into it is, like I said earlier, view them as gods. Don't try to put them on a timeline. Don't try to put them on, like, especially with Red Hood. Oh my goodness, that's a different topic. But
that's a different episode. Different episode of the podcast. Come back next week.
But just because a Superman story comes out after another one doesn't mean it takes place after. Doesn't mean the same lesson won't need to be learned again. You know, it's these characters are marble statues.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful. This conversation has proven to me that Superman as a concept, fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so that's the whole idea. The idea is that he really is the man of tomorrow. He stands for truth, justice, and the American way, as it was always supposed to be. So that's kind of, I don't know. I really don't have anything else to say. I think we've said it all.
Yeah.
Like, Superman is awesome, and All-Star Superman is worth a read.
Yeah.
100%. listen to this beforehand because I also think this in comic books, spoilers don't matter at all.
True, because it's only going to matter for that book, and then
Exactly. So I 100%, even though we've explained so much of what happens in the book, listen to this before you read All Star.
yeah,
And I should actually make a comprehensive reading guide to help out the layman.
yeah,
Something I will say against comic books: comic book entry, getting into the literature, way too hard.
really,
Getting into comic books is so confusing.
yeah,
Like me trying to get into New 52 Batman, lost,
yeah.
cooked. You have to go for one shots. It's the only way.
It's almost like if you don't do it contemporaneously,
Yeah, then you're
Like-
kind of cooked.
because then you can at least follow when the issues come out. But
Exactly. But Richard, thank you for your time.
it's been great. It's been a pleasure to be here.
It's been so fun. I love that one of the things that connects us is our common love for Superman.
Yes,
I think it's great. Watching James Gunn's Superman with you last year was fantastic.
that was pretty awesome.
Really a great experience. Thank you so much for coming on Superhumanity. Do you have any any last words? I was about to say. Do you have anything you want to close
He's
with?
about to zap me with a kryptonite laser, and that's how I die. I'm just going to say that I think that this lens that you're bringing to comic books is really valuable, and I think that people can learn a lot and find a lot of value and meaning when they look past the stigma. And the stigma is really easy to see. You walk into a comic book store, and it's like, whoa, is this a comic book store, or is this like a pornography store?
True. Very true.
And you know, they cater to their audience. So if that sells, then capitalism.
I'm going to go over that in an episode with Eliza, so it's going to be good.
But I think that not all creators are trying to cater to that, the male gaze, right? And a lot of creators take their craft really seriously. And I love how you talked about like James Gunn treating Superman with like respect. Because these characters are so easy to love. They're dressed in bright costumes and they wear underwear and all that jazz, but
Underwear outside of their clothes.
yes. Okay, disclaimer, I also wear underwear, but under my clothes. But the reason they're so popular beyond all that flashiness is because they're just characters that make choices that people can relate with and stand for moral values. And I think the perfect encapsulation of that is in Superman. And so if you want to find a comic book character who is not only fun to read about because he flies through space and shoots lasers out of his eyes and all that jazz, but also says something about the way we should live our lives, then I think Superman is great for that. And I think All-Star Superman is a great way to access that.
That's perfect. That is all we've got for today. Thank you for listening, and stay super. Stay human.
Stay super, stay man.
Thank you so much for listening, and we're up and away. So take care, everybody. Well, that's everything. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode at all, feel free to leave a like or subscribe, and just take care. See you guys later.